Welcome to Changing Higher Ed, a podcast dedicated to helping higher education leaders improve their institutions. With your host, Dr. Drumm McNaughton, CEO of The Change Leader, a consultancy that helps higher ed leaders holistically transform their institutions. Learn more at changinghighered.com. And now, here's your host, Drumm McNaughton.
Thank you, David. Our guest today is Dr. Ami Moyal, president of Afeka College of Engineering in Tel Aviv, Israel. Dr. Moyal has a very non-traditional background to his presidency and has served him well. Following graduation for his PhD in engineering, he went into the high-tech world, rising to CEO of an engineering company. He then went back into higher ed, where he used the engineering skills to transform Afeka. The result? Afeka has grown 42% since 2014 and combats the engineering shortage in Israel today. It contributes $2.25 billion annually to Israel's GDP, and its graduate employment rates are incredible. 97% of graduates are employed in the engineering industry, with over 50% of those in R&D. A great story, and one of fantastic transformation. Ami, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning to you and to the audience.
And good afternoon to you. You're coming from the state of Israel.
Yes, I'm located in Afeka College of Engineering in Tel Aviv, Israel, in sunny Israel, hot Israel. Yeah.
Well, we're talking today about how to transform a high-tech education institute. And you come from a very different background than your traditional professor, your traditional university president.
Yes, when I completed my PhD many years ago in electrical engineering, I was supposed to go for a postdoc and then come back to university to be a faculty member. But two good friends of mine has convinced me to join the high-tech industry for a year or two that lasted about 15 years. So I spent 15 years in the high-tech industry from the position of a research engineer to a team leader, project manager, vice president of technology development, and finally a CEO of a high-tech company in Israel that was focused on speech recognition, which is my field of expertise.
Very interesting. And of course, in higher ed versus high tech, there's differences in the management skills you learn, are there not?
I think that basically management of any organization, either in academia or in the high tech or in any other sector, you require the same basic skills. But of course, the implementation is different. And one point that I've discovered in the high tech and in the academia was that you need to implement a change on a constant basis. So these skills are quite similar between high-tech and academia, although the skills and the experience that I've come with the high-tech industry, when I begin to implement my management experience in the academia, it was not so easy at the beginning. The culture is completely different.
It is, and as that saying goes, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into that because that's the major focus of what we talked about. And you've had some phenomenal results there at Afeka. Is that the way you pronounce
Afeka.
it? Afeka. I'm sorry. My Hebrew is just not very good today.
Afeka is,
or any day for that matter.
Afeka is a Hebrew word for horizon or future.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, that makes perfect sense for a high education institution.
Definitely.
So what was it that brought you to higher ed? You know, why the change out of high tech?
You know, I think this is a basic point that is more philosophical. I think that, my father worked at the same organization for more than 40 years.
Wow.
The young people in the high-tech industry today are changing a company every 2 years. I think that working something between 10 to 15 years in a field, getting experience and skills and moving to another field, That's more fascinating. So I spent 10 years in the academia, PhD, etc., then 15 years in the high tech. And I felt that taking another role as a CEO of a high tech company would be more of the same. And I wanted something different. And I discovered that deep inside, I'm an education person. And I wanted to influence two main things in the academia. One, to change the education process of engineers, because I have a concrete point of view that I will be happy to elaborate. And secondly, I wanted to establish a research center that is focused on applied research with the industry in my field, which is speech recognition. So these two main reasons has made me to make the change at the age of a little bit more than 40.
Well, you're still a young man, sir.
Relatively, yes.
Compared to a lot of the folks over here in the US, absolutely. But you bring a passion to higher ed that you've seen it from both sides, and you've got extra experience. You saw as the CEO, as a project manager at multiple positions there in high tech, you saw multiple graduates coming out of university. Were they ready to join the high tech industry?
First of all, I think I had a view of graduates from various institutes in the Israeli academia or academic institutes. I think that my main conclusion was that although the engineers has very high grades in the math and engineering courses, they were lacking the skills that you need in a high rhythm high tech company. I was a CEO of a startup company with 50 people. Everything was dynamic, very dynamic. And the main skills that I needed in one of my positions as VP of Technology Development and CEO, I needed skills of mainly multidisciplinary teamwork, meaning engineers, software people, psychologists, designer working all together in projects and having a same language. I wanted my engineers to present their projects effectively in 3 minutes, meaning effective communication skills. I needed them to study very fast new topics, so I needed self-learning. I needed English in a high level in a Hebrew-speaking nation. So there are certain skills that they didn't come with their degree in engineering, although many of them has very high grades. And it took them a year or two in order to integrate into the scene of the high tech and into the development of new products. So my main impression is that the level of skills is lacking somehow for graduates of engineering schools.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because the Association of American Colleges and Universities comes out with a study every few years.
Yeah.
And their latest one really focused on the things like what you're saying, that the skills that employers need, but they really aren't getting. And at the top of that, working in teams, the ability to analyze and make decisions based on data, things like that. They're all, soft skills that what you're saying is the same thing was going on there in Israel.
Yeah, definitely in my position at my company, but I talked with my colleagues. And by the way, I don't call them soft skills because the word soft skills is too soft. I call them crucial skills.
Ah, okay.
Crucial skills.
They are, absolutely. I think you've nailed that. I think I need to change my languaging of that.
Okay.
So what was your approach? You came to Afeka. What was your approach? What were you seeing, and what changes did you feel you needed to make?
When I entered the office, I discovered that academic programs are normally defined by the process itself, meaning by the curricula itself, the courses, the list of courses, faculty members, graduates of the students. These are all criteria that are defining the process. I took a different approach based, I guess, on my profile as an engineer and as a manager. I first wanted to define the target, meaning the graduate profile. What should be the result or the outcome of the engineering education process of 4 years? So we started by asking the industry, what do you need? And then based on it and several other reports that we read, AACU, as you mentioned, Abbott, etc., we did quite a large learning phase that the outcome of it was the result, the profile of the ultimate engineer that will graduate Afeka. So we defined the output. Secondly, we went to the input. Input meaning the students that are coming today to Afeka to learn. It is a completely different generation. They study differently. They don't feel very good in classes in long lectures. So the output have changed, the input has changed. My main first conclusion was that if the process between the input and the output won't be changed, it may become irrelevant with time. So one output was the graduate profile, and then based on it, we completely changed the educational process in order to meet the profile of the graduate that we have defined.
Those are three major things that we're talked about. Let's unpack those just a little bit. Looking at building the program here in the United States, when an academic builds a program, they start and they build the program learning outcomes and they develop the courses around that. You did that, but you did it from a different perspective. You did it by consulting outside the institution and looking at, in fact, building an advisory board, so to speak, of external experts, people who are using your quote product, your graduate. And you talk to them to find out what it is they need. Is that correct?
Yes, but I'll give you the broader perspective. In my belief, we are going to a world in which long life learning, we will study always. And when you go to the academia to have your first degree, that's a station. You will continue the learning. This is one belief. The second belief is that the whole educational continuum from kindergarten to the industry should work together. In my dream, I see a graduate profile of a K-12 graduate, of a kindergarten graduate. So you have a whole national picture of the graduate profile. So these are two beliefs. And once we defined the graduate profile, we took at that point what was existing at Afeka, a curriculum with courses, with learning outcomes on a knowledge level. But our graduate profile includes scientific knowledge, engineering knowledge, personal skills, engineering skills, languages, ethics, and broad knowledge. These are the 7 ingredients that we believe that an excellent engineer should have. And now, in a process that took us almost 4 years, we defined all the skills, meaning if you talk about teamwork, we wrote what is teamwork, we defined it. And then we defined to each skills 3 levels. And all levels of all skills were integrated into the curriculum, meaning we are having today courses with learning outcomes at the level of knowledge and at the level of skills, and that has resulted with a full map of the journey of the students along the 4 years, how they are acquiring all aspects of the graduate profile from the point of the knowledge that was existing, and we added the skills. So there is a journey of the students. And by the way, I'm calling it a journey. They are not coming only to study and get knowledge. We are offering an experience, an adventure. I see the 4 years in college to get an engineering degree an adventure that they should enjoy and that they should learn with passion. This is another aspect of what we are offering our students.
I think all of these things are really important for people to understand because it's an integrated step-by-step
I
process
agree.
of creating, and as you say, a journey, I think, is a great way to explain it. A journey for learning the skills, knowledge, and processes and the emotional intelligence aspects of becoming a productive engineer on graduation.
That's exactly correct. And another remark, pay attention that I actually took the engineering design process that I implemented in the high-tech industry in order to develop a product. I used the same tools in order to implement a change in an educational process. I ask, what is the problem? I define the solution. I implement the solution, and now we are like a software, implementing, correcting. And by the way, I think it will go forever. There will not be an end to the change. We did a major step and we continue improving like version of a software. And sorry for the analogy, it's not the correct one, but I just wanted to emphasize the version mode that we are working. Innovation and change is part of our day. It's not something bizarre in the corner that we use from time to time. The change is constant.
Yeah. Well, it has to be. If you're Jack Welch, the former CEO at GE, said, if the rate of change outside the institution is greater than the rate of change inside the institution, the end is coming.
I was not aware of this sentence, but I fully agree. We are working on our relevance. The rhythm of change internally should be at the same rhythm of change externally. Otherwise, the mismatch would cause us to be irrelevant.
Yes, and we see that happening at many institutions across the globe, especially in the United States. Now, swapping horses just a little bit, the process that you had to go through, academics have a mentality. It's, we don't, everybody else can change, but what we're doing is just fine. It's worked for 600 years, so why do we need to change it? You had a huge culture change.
Yeah.
To go through there at the university. It couldn't have been easy.
No, the first 2 years were not easy at all. The remaining years are not easy, but the two first years was very difficult. And I'll try to explain my approach. First of all, I discovered that organizations are changing only under a threat. If there's a threat, there is a willingness in the organization to change. And when I entered office, I think that Afeka was in a good situation. So mainly the faculty didn't understand the motivation why to implement the change. We are okay. Admission is reasonable. Our financial situation is reasonable. There is a good atmosphere. So the first step was to supply the motivation for a change. Secondly, I established a dedicated internal communication unit in order to reflect everything to the faculty at time. So everybody was involved. We did all together the review with the high-tech companies. We together, all of us, all the academic management defined the graduate profile. I did buy-in of faculty and management into the process. You cannot oppose implementing a change to achieve the graduate profile that you have been involved in defining it. So there was a buy-in of large community. 50 people at Afeka were involved at defining the strategy, the graduate profile, internal communication, but all of this was not enough. Students were opposing. There was a strong resistance from the students. And I'll give you an example. We started changing pedagogy and evaluation methods. And the first year we implemented it, students rejected because they didn't have a reference. And I said, this is exactly what I want. I want you on a yearly basis to deal with new problems with no reference. So the first 2-3 years were really difficult. But now, after 6 years of an implementation, I can say that we have built internally, engines for change, engines, center for promoting teaching, center for promoting learning with students. We are helping students, faculty, staff, reskilling. I won't give more examples, but we have established many centers with managers to assist implementing the change. Now the centers are located, working, and the change continuously is going on a yearly basis.
Well, it's a phenomenal story, and the results that you've gotten have been incredible. And eight years ago, I think when we spoke before, you said you had about 2,300 students, and now you've got over 3,500 students.
Yeah, the last 6 years, we have been increasing all our activity at an average rate of 10% a year. And again, when you implement a change, you should be very careful with regard to the capacity of the organization and the faculty to accept the change. So it was a moderate change, multi-year, a year-by-year increase of 10%, and now we are stabilizing the situation. We have been hiring, we increased the faculty, the academic and administrative by 50%. Student number at all faculties was increased by 50%, but there are two main factors that are very relevant and I'm paying attention to them. We did the change mainly due to the different profile of the students and to industry requirements. So, students, 6 years ago, there were 600 admissions and we were able to receive 450 students. This year, even after Corona, there is no decrease. We are continuing. 12,000 candidates approached Afeka. Almost 3,000 of them are fully equipped with the grades that they need, and we can receive only 1,000. So we increased the enrollment by more than 2, but the number of candidates has gone more than 10 times more. And each year we are doing a survey among our graduates with several main questions. They are all working. That's no problem. My main question is in which positions they are working. I want to see them working in the heart of the R&D of the high-tech industry, meaning working in R&D itself, and more than half of them are working there. And we are also analyzing the level of salaries that they are receiving, because from my point of view, as somebody that has come from the industry, if the industry is willing to pay, that means they are satisfied with the engineering profile and performance. So level of salary is very high, but there's a lack of engineers, very good positions in R&D, and almost 97% of them are working. Most of them are working already in the third or fourth year. So from the input side and from the output side, that was the main trigger of the change. We are having very good symptoms. And as you can understand, we are measuring everything along the process. Input, output process.
This is a fabulous testimonial about what you can do if you start looking at what the input is and what the graduation, what the needs are within the industry. It's looking at the engineering industry holistically.
Yeah.
Everything from input, output, and then growth, because the engineering, Moore's law, the rate of technology, the rate of knowledge doubles every 18 months. So you have to have the lifelong learning. You have to teach the students that it's okay not to know an answer, but how to dig down to find an answer. These are all things that you embed into your curriculum, is it not?
Yeah, definitely. And once you go to a journey of long life learning, you need to have the basic skills that enables you to perform well in such a situation, meaning self-learning. We need to give the students these skills for their success, for their personal success, for their success in the industry, in their roles, but for ongoing learning along their whole career. Yes, definitely.
And so where are you now at Afeka? Where are you now and what's next?
As you can understand, the last 6 years were not easy. We had 2 years of Corona, and we have now came back to campus in full. I think that our curricula has been changed dramatically. Many courses are not traditional at class. Students are outside in the industry, in hospital, in society, learning differently in teams. You know, the average number of students at Afeka in class is 32. That enables you to conduct a discussion, to work in groups and not classical lectures. So we have implemented quite a change. We are now stabilizing the number of students around 3,500, and we are continuing to enrich the journey of the students by quite a large number of activities, of extracurricular activities, because we believe that students are not coming to study only in class. And by the way, the survey that you mentioned about AACU, they said they need skills, but they also value extracurricular activity, either professional or working in society. So we have established a large unit that is responsible for the extracurricular activity in order to enrich the student experience and give them an opportunity to fulfill their dreams. Next step, we are now extending beyond engineering. We have opened a program for computer science, data science, and we plan in a year or two to have a third one on brain science. And then to offer joint programs of engineering and science. If we believe in the skills of multidisciplinary teamwork, we want to offer our students multidisciplinary programs. Third layer of the change is working on master degrees, part of them with thesis. And last point, we have the luck and opportunity to design a new campus from scratch. So we are quite in an advanced stage of designing a new campus, and we are going to relocate all Afeka activity to the southern part of Tel Aviv. It's more of a socio-urban activity to change completely the southern neighborhoods of Tel Aviv, and that would be a large campus that would enable us to continue our growing.
Well, those all sound like fabulous things. At some point in time, I would love to come over and visit the campus.
Okay, you're most welcomed anytime you want.
Well, thank you. So tell me 3 takeaways for your fellow presidents and other folks, boards, who are thinking about making major changes at their institutions.
One thing that has influenced me during the coronavirus, and I'm keep repeating to my faculty, that we should do things out of value and not out of convenience. Because the coronavirus has taken us to certain points where it is very convenient to teach from home or to study from home, but there is a real value of coming to campus. Secondly, we need to do the right thing, point, and to be consistent regarding it. The right thing is to give a proper, relevant educational process to the students that trust us to give them such an education process. And third, a change is not a year or two. It's a constant state of change that we are facing. And from my experience, most people cannot live in a constant state of change. We need, as president, to establish a culture that encourage change and accept failure. Because in such a process, there will be a lot of pilots, many failures. We need to accept them, analyze them, get a conclusion, and move forward. And take everybody with you. Otherwise, you stay alone with your thoughts. Groups, teams of faculty, of students thinking together, contributing to the process. Once a faculty member contributes to the process, he feels responsible to it, so he'll be part of implementing the change.
Well, those are great takeaways. Thank you. So what's next personally for you?
I don't know. I want to finish my duty here at Afeka. I have another term, And I guess that I'll take a position in the education or the higher education in another institute or a national level. I think that education is the most important mission of a society. And I guess you can hear on my voice, I'm very passionate about what I'm doing, and anything that I can help Israel in the educational process, I'll be more than happy to do and bring my experience to it.
Well, thank you very much. This has been fascinating, and what you've been able to convey to the guests is a step-by-step process of how to change an institution and make it incredibly relevant. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening today, and a special thank you to Dr. Ami Moyal, president of Afeka College of Engineering, and for his sharing his formula for growing enrollment at a university. Our next guest is Ryan Craig, managing director at Achieve Partners and a frequent contributor to Forbes magazine writing about higher education. Ryan will be joining us to talk about how workforce needs are driving changes in higher ed and what higher ed can do to become more relevant in the eyes of employers.
Changing Higher Ed is a production of The Change Leader, a consultancy committed to transforming higher ed institutions. Find more information about this topic, along with show notes on this episode at changinghighered.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to the show, and we would also value your honest rating and review. Email any questions, comments, or recommendations for topics or guests to podcast@changinghighered.com. Changing Higher Ed is produced and hosted by Dr. Drumm McNaughton, post-production by David L. White.